They said he had no imagination. 4 o'clock in the morning. The streets are empty. The morning is bitterly cold. A young boy pedals through the darkness, a heavy canvas bag of newspapers hanging from his bicycle. House after house, street after street, he keeps going. His fingers are numb, his legs ache, but he doesn't stop. By the time the first rays of sunlight touch the rooftops, every newspaper has been delivered. Then he goes to school. After school, he comes home and spends every spare moment drawing, because those quiet moments are the only part of the day that truly belongs to him. He fills page after page with horses, dogs, birds, anything that catches his eye. This is a true story. And that little boy would one day change. Animation forever. But right now, he's just a kid with cold hands and a pencil. Money was always scarce. His father expected him to work. So from an early age, work became part of his daily life. There wasn't much time left to simply be a child. But somehow he made his own time. He'd sketch the neighbor's dog, the shape of the clouds, whatever his eyes landed on. At 16, war was raging across the world. He wanted in, but he was too young. So he did something bold. He changed his birth year on the paperwork and lied his way into service. He spent the war driving ambulances, and even surrounded by all of that, he still found a way to draw on scraps of paper on the side of his ambulance, wherever there was space. When the war ended, he came home with a simple dream: to make a living, doing the one thing he loved most: drawing. He found work as a commercial artist. For the first time, it felt like life was finally moving in the right direction. A steady job, a steady paycheck, a future. Then, one ordinary afternoon, everything changed. His editor called him into the office. There was no warning, no long conversation, just a few words that would stay with him for years. The editor believed he lacked imagination, that he simply didn't have enough good ideas. Just like that, the job was over. He was only in his 20s. Most people would have looked for something safer, something more certain. He did something different. He picked up his pencil one more time. Then he opened a small animation studio. It wasn't much: one camera, a few borrowed desks, a handful of artists, and dreams far bigger than the room they worked in. Every morning, they unlocked the door, believing this would be the day everything changed. Some days, there were clients. Most days, there weren't. The rent kept coming. The bills kept piling up. Eventually, the studio collapsed. Most people would have called it a lesson and moved on. He called it practice. So he started again. This time, he created a new studio. He poured everything he had into that studio. He made promises to investors and worked until exhaustion became normal. Slowly, the films began to attract attention. For the first time, it seemed the struggle was ending, but it wasn't. The money ran out. The studio went bankrupt. Years of work disappeared. He had lost everything. Again. Here's where most people stopped. He didn't. With a single suitcase and almost no money, he boarded a train to Hollywood. Hollywood wasn't waiting for him. It didn't even know he existed. He rented a tiny workspace, gathered a small team, started drawing again. One frame at a time, one scene at a time. Months passed. Then, finally, something worked. A cheerful little rabbit. Audiences loved him. For the first time, success didn't feel impossible anymore. The studio was growing. Money was finally coming in. It felt like he had made it. Then, everything changed. Again. The company distributing his cartoons had been planning quietly behind his back. While he was busy creating, they were busy negotiating, not with him, with his animators. One by one, they offered them better contracts. One by one, his team left. Then came the final blow. They used a clause buried in his contract to take the rabbit, his creation, for themselves, legally cleanly, completely. He didn't just lose a character, he lost the team he had built with his bare hands. He lost the one thing that had finally started to work. He was, once again, starting from absolute zero. He stepped onto a train, heading home. Looking out the window, he carried something far heavier than luggage. He carried disappointment, he carried betrayal, he carried the feeling of having to begin all over again. But somewhere between one station and the next, something remarkable happened. Instead of thinking about what had been taken from him, he began thinking about what no one could ever take away: his imagination. He reached for his sketchbook, opened to a blank page, picked up his pencil, and began to draw. A small face, round ears, bright eyes, a playful smile. Nothing about it looked extraordinary, not yet. But that little mouse was carrying something much bigger than ink on paper. He named him Mickey. At first, almost no one believed in him. Distributors weren't interested. Studios turned him away. Some thought a mouse could never become a hero. Others believed animation had already reached its limit. Once again, he heard the same message: "This isn't going to work." By now, those words sounded familiar. He smiled and kept drawing. Instead of making another silent cartoon, he decided to risk everything. He wanted audiences to hear the story, not just watch it. Music, sound effects, perfectly synchronized and with every movement. At the time, that it was expensive, complicated. If it failed, there might not be another chance. So he bet everything, one more time. Months of work came down to a single evening. The lights dimmed, the audience waited. Then, Mickey whistled. The cartoon was called Steamboat Willie. For the first time, animation didn't just move. It sang, it laughed, it came alive. The theater erupted. People laughed louder than they ever had. Children smiled, adults smiled. Nobody had seen anything like it before. Overnight, Mickey Mouse became more than a character. Everything had changed. Success finally came, but he believed animation could become something more. He announced his next dream: Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the world's first full-length animated movie. Not 7 minutes, not 10, an entire feature film. Hollywood couldn't believe it. Many mocked the idea. Newspapers called it folly. Experts were certain that no audience would sit through a 90-minute cartoon. Friends questioned him. The budget kept growing. Investors worried. To finish the film, he mortgaged almost everything he owned. His future, his studio, his reputation rested on one impossible dream. A failure would mean losing everything again. Then came opening night. The lights went down. The audience fell silent. By the time it was over, many were in tears. The film wasn't just successful, it changed cinema forever. The impossible had become reality. The little studio that once struggled to pay rent had just changed the history of animation. Most people would have stopped there. He didn't, because every dream he reached showed him another one. So he imagined a place unlike any the world had ever seen. Many doubted it. He built it anyway. The world would come to know it as Disneyland. The little boy who woke before sunrise to deliver newspapers grew up to become one of the most imaginative minds the world has ever known. His name was Walt Disney. He became one of the most influential storytellers in history. The awards kept coming. Recognition followed. Across his lifetime, he received 22 Academy Awards, more than anyone else in history. The world remembers Mickey Mouse, Disneyland, the castle, but none of them would exist if one young man had believed the people who said he had no imagination. When life gave him every reason to quit, he chose to create. So if today life suddenly pulls you down, remember him. Not the man standing in front of the castle. Remember the young artist with cold hands, a pencil, and a dream. Because every chapter of his story began with one more attempt. All our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them.